Hey guys, this is Mark. In this video, I will talk about the Bulk Create API. It is an API that gives you an ability to save multiple objects in the database with a single API call. Consider the following scenario. Say you're working on a to-do app where users can enter multiple tasks, define the properties of those tasks, such as when they're due, who's responsible for them, whether they are done or not, and so on. And then with a single button click or whatever the event is in the UI, you save all those tasks in the database as individual objects. The benefit of this is obvious, which is fewer trips to the database. Literally one call saves all those tasks, and the benefit is huge because at the end of the day it results in better user experience, and happy users is always good. Of course, there may be other examples where when you want to save multiple objects, it's not just the to-do app, but I will describe what that API looks like and how to use it, and then we'll do a little demo with Codeless as well. So since we talked about the to-do app, let's actually create a table, and I will demonstrate how that API works with that table. So here, let's create a table that is called to-do list and define the schema for the table. It's going to be task property, and then we will also have a property called is done. And let's say that the default value for that, it's going to be Boolean property, and the default one is false. So here, now that we have this table, let's, and of course it is empty since we just created it, let's use the Bulk Create API in REST console to see how that would work. So since I mentioned that the API takes multiple objects, the payload for the API request needs to be an array. And so we will start with a JSON array, which is square brackets, and inside of it, we will place our objects. And here we will have task. For instance, it will be shopping. Since I already have is done property set to false, then we can omit that, and by default it will be false. So that's object number one. Let's create another one, task workout, and the third one, it will be task studying. And for instance, let's just say that studying is already done. So to make that bulk create API call in REST console, you need to make sure that you select this bulk operation. And bulk operation instructs backendless console, specifically REST console, to structure that request as a bulk API request. I will open up the inspect panel and the switch to network just so we can see what that API looks like on the wire. So now with this, we click post to send out the request, and the request is sent. Notice that in the response we got an array of object IDs that were assigned to these individual objects, and then these IDs will be in the same order as the objects in the corresponding request. In the actual request right here, this is where the request went out to. Notice that in the API endpoint after /API/data, there is this part of the URL that says bulk. So that instructs backend server to treat that request as a bulk request. It is post, which will be the create, and then to-do list designates the table where those objects need to be saved. In the actual payload, it is going to be the array of these objects that we sent. And in the response, it is shown here. It is an array of object IDs that we got back. So very straightforward. And here, whatever properties that you put in here, they will be saved so long that there is a corresponding column in the table that you created. Going back to data browser, now we have all these objects in the table. And if we go back to REST console and remove bulk operation and click get, now we got all these objects that were created with the bulk create API in the database. In Codeless, it's going to be exactly the same, but using Codeless. And then if you're using one of our SDKs, the bulk create API will get a collection, will accept a collection of objects, and then you make the request, and those objects will end up in the database. Let me demonstrate the codeless here, and for this, we'll be using to-do list. So for this, switch to front end and create a new page. Let's call it bulk create. There will not be any UI because I strictly want to focus on the logic. And for this, if we go to the page itself, and let's say on page enter, let's bring out the block that will do the bulk create. It is going to be under data API. And in here, let's locate the block that will do bulk create. Here it is, bulk create. The table name is to-do list. And then the objects will be a list of objects. So let's create a new list. And then we'll just save 2 objects here. And then now when we create a new object, in here the property will be task. And we will just skip the is done because for the brevity purposes. And let's say then the task will be learn BackEndless. That's one object, and spend time with kids, which is also important. So that's it. And whenever this bulk create is done, we can have an option to return object IDs. Let's do that, and then print them out in console. So this way we will get some visual feedback in browser's console to get those object IDs. So now if we run this page and open up the console, right here you see that we got an array of 2 objects that were created. So that means that the request went out, we got those IDs, and now those objects are going to be in the database. So if we go back to the backend, click data browser, and now as you can see, these 2 objects, learn BackEndless and spend time with kids, those objects are in the database. That's it. So very easy to use API, but very powerful, especially when performance is important and you have a use case when you can save multiple objects in a database. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy coding.